The morning sun was just beginning to burn off the early mist hovering over Silver Pine Lake when Ty fired up his jet ski. The engine's low growl echoed across the still water, breaking the peaceful silence like a shot. Ty's grin stretched wide as he felt the familiar rush of wind and spray, the freedom that came with slicing through the lake's glassy surface. This was his place, his sanctuary. A playground inherited from generations of his family. His grandfather had told him stories here by the fire or on slow summer evenings about the lake and the sprawling land surrounding it. Tales of old, disputes, hidden secrets, and the pride they'd carried in owning a piece of paradise. But recently things had shifted. The neighborhood's HOA, led by the notoriously overbearing Karen, started acting like they owned the lake. Not just the land around it, but the water itself. Ty had ignored the first letter, a formal notice demanding he stop using his jet skis, citing noise disturbances and safety concerns. The tone was polite, but the underlying threat was clear: comply or face fines and legal action. He chuckled to himself that evening as he pulled out a dusty box of his grandfather's papers from the attic. Surely the HOA was bluffing, but curiosity gnawed at him. He needed to be certain. Under the yellowed pages and faded ink, he found the original deeds, detailed surveys, and property tax records dating back nearly a century. His fingers trembled when he spotted the lake's name clearly inscribed alongside his family's Silver Pine Lake, owned outright by the Bennett family. Not the HOA, not any neighboring landowners. The lake bed, the water rights, the entire body of water was legally theirs. Ty reread the documents, feeling a mixture of disbelief and pride swell inside him. The HOA had no authority here, none whatsoever, but if that was true, why was Karen acting so aggressively? Why send the threats? And why had she suddenly made the lake the focus of her crusade? Ty's mind raced. He knew HOA politics ran deep, fueled by ego and power struggles. But this felt personal. He didn't want to fight, but he wouldn't back down. The next morning, determined to enjoy a ride before things escalated, Ty hitched the jet ski trailer to his pickup and drove toward the lake's entrance. The sun warmed his back and the crisp breeze carried the faint scent of pine and fresh water. But as he neared the gate, he spotted a familiar black SUV blocking the narrow dirt road. Out stepped Karen herself, arms crossed, eyes sharp and unyielding like a hawk's. "Ty," she called out, her voice cold and clipped. "You're trespassing. No jet skis on HOA property." He pulled up a safe distance, shutting off the engine. Calm but firm, he replied. "Karen, I've got news for you. This lake belongs to me. I have the deeds to prove it." Karen narrowed her eyes, smirking. "Not according to the board. You'll have to take that up with them." Ty's pulse quickened. This was more than a simple dispute. It was a battle for control, for respect, for legacy. Around them, a few neighbors peeked from windows and doorways, whispers rippling through. The crowd. Ty knew the stakes had just been raised. But beneath the surface of Silver Pine Lake, deeper than any feud, lay secrets waiting to be uncovered. Secrets that might just change everything. As Karen's SUV blocked his path, Ty made a silent vow. He wasn't giving up his family's lake without a fight. Ty's heart still pounded from the tense encounter at the lake's edge. The black SUV had sat there like a blockade for hours, Karen's glare burning holes through the summer haze. He knew she wasn't just protecting HOA rules. This was personal. His discovery of the deeds had rattled her more than she let on. The very next day, Ty received a thick envelope in the mail, stamped with the HOA's official seal. Inside was a barrage of formal letters, each more aggressive than the last. They threatened fines, legal action, and demanded he immediately cease all unauthorized use of the lake. But this time, Ty wasn't going to back down. He sat at his kitchen table, surrounded by the yellowed deeds, and his laptop open to state property laws. Every clause and paragraph he studied solidified one truth. Silver Pine Lake was his. The HOA's claims were not only baseless, they were outright harassment. His phone buzzed. A message from Karen. Ignoring HOA rules won't end well for you, Ty. Ty's fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing back. These aren't HOA rules. They're your opinions. That night, the HOA called an emergency meeting, and word spread like wildfire. Karen appeared more determined than ever, rallying board members with fiery speeches about community safety and protecting property values. But there was an undercurrent of fear that Ty's legal standing might unravel everything they had built. Behind closed doors, Karen's tactics turned more desperate. Anonymous calls to Ty's neighbors warned of dangerous jet ski noise and property damage. Flyers appeared on doorsteps accusing Ty of breaking community trust. Ty's mailbox was vandalized. His fences were spray-painted with threats. And late at night, his security cameras caught shadowy figures lurking near the dock where his jet skis rested. The tension in the neighborhood thickened. Some neighbors whispered in support of Karen, wary of upsetting HOA order. Others, curious and suspicious, quietly reached out to Ty, offering support or information. One evening, Mrs. Delgado, an elderly widow living nearby, knocked on Ty's door. "I remember your grandfather," she said softly. "This lake belongs to you, no doubt. Don't let them bully you." Her words bolstered Ty's resolve. Determined to fight back, Ty hired a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Rachel who specialized in property rights. Rachel reviewed every deed and law, confirming what Ty suspected. The HOA had no jurisdiction over the lake itself. They began gathering evidence, emails, letters, surveillance footage, building a case not just to protect Ty's rights, but to expose the HOA's overreach. But Karen wasn't finished. Her harassment escalated. She organized patrols on the lake, trying to intimidate anyone on jet skis. She filed false complaints with local law enforcement, claiming reckless endangerment. One weekend, Ty took his jet skis out with a few friends for a casual ride. Midway, a patrol boat from the HOA appeared, cameras rolling. Karen's voice crackled. Over a loudspeaker, ordering them to stop immediately. Ty calmly waved the boat off, shouting back, "This is my lake! Show me a law that says otherwise!" The confrontation quickly attracted neighbors, some cheering, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Karen's aggressive stance was rallying opposition, but also painting her as a villain. As days passed, Ty found himself walking a tightrope between escalating conflict and the hope for peace. What secrets did Karen hide behind her fierce protectiveness of the HOA's power? And how far would she go to keep control? Ty's fight wasn't just about jet skis anymore. It was about uncovering the truth buried beneath years of HOA politics and old grudges. And the deeper he dug, the more dangerous the waters became. The morning of the jet ski parade dawned bright and clear, the kind of perfect day that begged for a celebration. Ty's plan was simple, to prove once and for all that the lake was his to enjoy. He had invited a handful of close friends and neighbors who supported him, each eager to show solidarity with a small but spirited jet ski parade across Silver Pine Lake. Word had leaked about the event, and as Ty pulled his trailer up to the lake's edge, he noticed several unfamiliar faces. Among them, glaring and impatient, stood Karen, flanked by the HOA's makeshift security team. Cameras in hand, she was ready to document anything she could use against Ty. "Planning a little rebellion, Ty?" Karen called out, her voice dripping, with disdain. Ty shrugged, smiling. "Just some friends and me enjoying the lake. Nothing more." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You're violating HOA regulations. I'm calling the police if you proceed." Ty's friends chuckled nervously, but he raised his hand for calm. "Karen, I've told you before, I own this lake. You and your HOA don't have any authority here. Let's keep this peaceful." Karen scoffed but made no move to stop the parade, for now. One by one, the jet skis roared to life, engines buzzing and water splashing as the group pushed off into the open water. The sight was spectacular. Colorful jets weaving through sun-dappled waves, each rider waving and cheering. Spectators gathered along the shoreline, some snapping photos, others murmuring in awe. For a moment, it felt like victory. Then, the unexpected happened. From the far side of the lake, another black SUV pulled up, this time with flashing lights. It was the local sheriff's deputies, summoned by Karen's earlier threats. The officers approached cautiously, scanning the scene. Ty stepped forward, holding up the deeds once again. "This is my property," he said firmly. "We're not breaking any laws." The lead deputy nodded slowly. "We're here to ensure everyone's safety. If you can prove ownership, we won't interfere." Karen fumed but couldn't argue with official procedure. As the parade continued, the crowd's energy grew electric, part celebration, part protest. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered dangerously. During a brief pause near the lake's southern cove, a sudden commotion erupted. One of the jet skis, Ty's newest model, sputtered and stalled unexpectedly. As it bobbed helplessly, Karen shouted accusations of reckless behavior, pointing fingers at Ty's group. Ty examined the jet ski and noticed something odd, a tampered fuel line, deliberately sabotaged. His heart raced. Someone had crossed. "A line!" Whispers spread through the crowd. Who could have done this? Was the HOA responsible? Or a hidden enemy with a grudge? The deputies called for calm, but the mood had shifted. The parade resumed, but unease lingered like a storm cloud. Back on shore, Karen made a public statement, painting Ty and his friends as reckless rule breakers. But many neighbors saw through the facade, sensing her desperation. Ty knew this was no longer just a property dispute. It was a war of wills, fueled by hidden agendas and personal vendettas. As he packed up his gear later that day, a strange envelope was slipped under his door. Inside, a cryptic note read, "This lake isn't yours to claim. Walk away before it's too late." Ty's blood ran cold. The stakes had just been raised higher than ever before, but Ty wasn't about to walk away. He was ready for whatever came next. The cryptic note lingered in Ty's mind as he stared at it under the dull glow of his porch light. The handwriting was unfamiliar, jagged, meant to unsettle, to warn. But Ty was no stranger to threats. His grandfather had always said, "Sometimes you have to stand firm against the dark to keep the light." That night, sleep eluded him. He replayed the events of the jet ski parade over and over, each new detail sharpening his resolve and heightening his suspicion. The sabotage wasn't random. Someone wanted to scare him off, to push him away from the lake he'd inherited. Next morning, Ty met with Rachel, his lawyer, at the cluttered kitchen table where papers and legal documents lay scattered like battle plans. "We need to go public," Rachel said, her voice low but fierce. "If the HOA's bullying is this blatant, community support can turn the tide. Plus, we can file for a temporary injunction to prevent further harassment." Ty nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He had a feeling that there was more at play than just HOA politics. The aggression, the threats, they felt personal, calculated. As they prepared their legal strategy, Ty's phone buzzed again. This time a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old boathouse at midnight. Come alone." Ty's heart skipped. Was this an ally or a trap? He debated all day, the question gnawing at him. His friends warned against it, but something deep inside urged him to go. Answers waited in the shadows, and he wasn't afraid to face them. That night, wrapped in a hoodie, Ty crept toward the boathouse hidden among the willows at the lake's edge. The moon cast eerie silver light on the water, and the silence pressed in like a heavy fog. As he reached the weathered wooden door, it creaked open. Inside, a figure stepped forward. A woman Ty recognized from the neighborhood, but one who had kept to herself, always quiet. It's me, Lena, she whispered urgently. I can't stand by while Karen ruins everything. The HOA's hiding more than you think. Ty's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Lena glanced around nervously. Karen's been covering up illegal land deals selling parts of the lake. Sure, without telling anyone, that's why she's desperate to keep control. And there's more. She's bribed some board members and even local officials. Ty felt a chill. Corruption, greed, lies, and the perfect storm. You need proof, Lena said, pulling out a USB drive. I hacked into the HOA's encrypted files. Everything you need to expose her is here. Ty's hands trembled as he accepted the drive. But be careful, Lena warned. They're watching, and they won't hesitate to silence anyone who threatens them. As Ty left the boathouse, the weight of the revelation settled on him like a boulder. This wasn't just about a lake or jet skis anymore. It was a fight against a corrupt system built on lies and intimidation. Back at home, Ty plugged the USB into his laptop, his eyes scanning documents, emails, and photos that painted a damning picture. Karen's smiling facade was shattered, revealing a ruthless woman who'd clawed her way to power at any cost. But time was running out. The next day, Karen's SUV appeared again, parked conspicuously near Ty's property, as if daring him to make a move. Ty knew the battle was about to reach a boiling point. The question was, would he be ready? The sun rose over Silver Pine Lake like an ominous spotlight on what was about to unfold. Ty's mind was racing, heart pounding with a mix of determination and anxiety. Armed with the evidence Lena had given him, he was ready to expose Karen and the HOA for the corruption they had tried so desperately to hide. But first, there was one more obstacle. Karen's black SUV parked squarely in the middle of the narrow ranch road leading to his property. It was a blatant blockade, a silent challenge, daring Ty to confront her. Ty grabbed his phone and dialed his grandfather, hoping to get some advice from the man who had built the legacy he now fought to protect. "Grandpa," Ty said as soon as the old man answered, "Karen's blocking the road again. I think she's trying to trap me in, or worse." His grandfather's voice was calm but firm. "Ty, I know that road better than anyone. If she's blocking it illegally, you have every right to have her vehicle removed. I'll call the towing company and the local sheriff right now. Just stay calm and don't engage." With his grandfather's support, Ty felt a surge of confidence. He stepped outside, the summer heat beating down, and approached Karen's SUV. The windows were tinted, but he could see Karen inside, scrolling on her phone, unfazed. "Karen," Ty called out, voice steady. "You need to move your SUV. You're blocking my private road." Karen rolled down her window with a sneer. "This road serves the community, Ty. I'm protecting our interests." Ty shook his head. "This road is part of my family's property, and you have no right to block it." Before Karen could reply, the distant sound of a tow truck's engine reached their ears. Moments later, a large yellow tow truck pulled up behind her SUV, lights flashing. Karen's eyes widened. "You can't do this! I'm a board member! I have authority!" The tow truck driver climbed down, clipboard in hand. "Sir, we got a call from the property owner. Your vehicle is blocking private access. We're here to tow." Karen tried to argue, but her voice faltered under the growing crowd that had gathered. Neighbors peeked from their porches, whispering and exchanging looks of surprise and curiosity. Ty's grandfather arrived, steady and imposing, and stood beside his grandson. "I called the sheriff," he said, "and they've confirmed you're trespassing on private property." Karen's face twisted with fury. She grabbed her phone and called the sheriff's office herself, but by the time deputies arrived, the tow truck was already hooking up her SUV. One deputy approached Karen, reading her the official complaint and informing her of the legal boundaries. Karen's tirade only made her look more unhinged in front of the growing crowd. As the tow truck pulled her SUV away, Karen's eyes locked with Ty's, burning with a mix of rage and humiliation. But the victory was bittersweet. Ty knew this confrontation was just the opening salvo in a war far from over. Back at his house, Ty plugged in the USB Lena had given him and began preparing to release the damning evidence to the local news and community members. Before he could finish, his phone buzzed again. Another anonymous text. "Careful, Ty. Some secrets are deadly." His fingers hovered over the keyboard, a chill running down his spine. Was Karen willing to go that far? Ty steeled himself. No matter what threats came his way, he wasn't backing. Down, the lake, his family's legacy, and the truth demanded it. The days following Karen's SUV being towed felt like walking through a storm. The community was buzzing. Some applauded Ty's stand, others whispered warnings that things were getting dangerous. But Ty had never felt more certain. That evening, Ty sat in his living room, laptop open, the incriminating HOA files ready to go public. Rachel, his lawyer, was on a video call, helping him craft a statement to expose Karen's corruption without giving her a legal edge. Suddenly, the power flickered. The lights went out, plunging the house into thick darkness. Ty's heart raced. His phone's flashlight flicked on as he cautiously moved to check the breaker box. Everything seemed normal, but then a low scratching noise came from outside. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped out onto his porch. The beam scanned the yard, but all was quiet except for the chirping of crickets. Still uneasy, Ty locked the doors and double-checked the windows. Minutes later, his phone buzzed again. Another anonymous text. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." Ty swallowed hard but refused to be intimidated. He messaged back, "You picked the wrong guy." The next morning, the sheriff's office called him. "Mr. Carter, we received a report of vandalism on your property overnight," the deputy said. Ty stepped outside and saw it. His prized jet skis, once gleaming, now covered in deep scratches, and one wheel of his truck slashed. The message was clear. Karen's war had escalated to outright intimidation and property damage. Ty's grandfather arrived shaking his head. "This is no longer just a fight. It's a battle for survival." Rachel advised filing a police report and a restraining order against any suspected HOA members. But Ty wanted more. He wanted the truth fully exposed. Late that night, Ty reviewed the files again and discovered something shocking. Financial transfers from HOA accounts to unknown entities overseas. It was money laundering, or worse, funding for silencing dissenters. His fingers trembled as he made a decision. He would take this to the press, the authorities, and the community. But as he prepared his first press release, a knock came at the door. His heart jumped. He wasn't expecting anyone. He peeked through the peephole and saw a man in a dark suit, holding a sealed envelope. "Ty Carter?" the man asked. "Yes," Ty replied cautiously. "I'm Agent Harris with the state attorney's office. We've been investigating the HOA for months. Your evidence just confirmed everything." Ty exhaled, relief and tension crashing together. Help had arrived, but so had the real danger. Agent Harris warned, "This won't be easy. They're powerful. You must be careful." Ty nodded. The battle for Silver Pine Lake was no longer just personal. It had become a fight against a corrupt system that reached far beyond the small community. And Ty knew one thing for sure. The darkest moments were still ahead. The early morning sun barely pierced the thick fog hanging over Silver Pine Lake as Agent Harris and a convoy of law enforcement vehicles rolled into the neighborhood. Ty stood beside his grandfather, watching as deputies and investigators fanned out, moving toward the HOA's offices. The air buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and unease. Neighbors gathered silently, whispers spreading like wildfire. Some were hopeful, others afraid of the fallout. Ty's phone buzzed again, a message. "From Karen, you think this ends well for you? Think again." He ignored it. Inside the HOA office, chaos erupted. Agents executed search warrants, confiscating computers, documents, and hard drives. The murmur of protests from HOA board members was drowned out by the sharp commands of law. Enforcement. Ty and his grandfather waited anxiously nearby. Agent Harris approached, his expression grim but resolute. "We found evidence of money laundering, bribery, and illegal property deals. This is bigger than we thought," Harris said. Ty's chest tightened. The woman who had tormented his family, Karen, was about to face the consequences. But the moment was far from victory. That afternoon, as the raid continued, Karen appeared at the entrance to the community, flanked by her loyal supporters. Her face was pale, her usual confident sneer replaced by something darker, desperation. She stepped forward and addressed the crowd. "You don't know the whole story," she said, voice trembling slightly. "There are things you've never been told." Curious and wary, the crowd listened as Karen began to reveal a secret. Years ago, she claimed, Ty's grandfather had entered into a deal with a shadowy developer, selling off parts of the lakefront in exchange for a large sum, a deal that had sparked the current conflict. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ty's grandfather stepped forward, face etched with years of hard-won wisdom. "That's a lie," he said quietly. "I never sold a single inch of this land. The developer never came near us." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You can deny it all you want, but the papers exist, and soon you'll all see." Suddenly, a supporter from the crowd pushed forward, holding up a thick binder. "It's true," the supporter shouted. "Here's the contract." Ty felt the room tilt beneath him. Had his grandfather really kept such a secret? He took the binder and flipped through the pages. The contract was old and yellowed, but it bore a signature unmistakably his grandfather's, and an address to sell a large portion of the lakefront. But then Ty noticed something odd. A red stamp marked void across the contract, and a series of annotations declaring the deal null and void due to fraud by the developer. It was a trap, designed to ruin his family's reputation. Ty's mind raced. Someone had dug up this fake contract to undermine them. Karen smiled cruelly, but her supporters looked uncertain. Ty raised his voice. "This contract was never valid. The developer was a fraud, and my grandfather never gave up the land." Crowd murmured, tension shifting. Just then, Agent Harris stepped forward, holding up a stack of newly uncovered documents. "We've also found evidence proving the developer was a front used by Karen and the HOA to manipulate property ownership and cover up their illegal activities." Karen's face drained of color. The crowd erupted, some shouting accusations, others applauding Ty and his grandfather, but the fight wasn't over. Karen took a step back, eyes blazing. "This isn't the last you've seen of me," she hissed as she stormed off. Ty felt a mix of relief and dread. They had won a critical battle, but the war for Silver Pine Lake was far from over. The storm of the raid had passed, but its ripples echoed through Silver Pine Lake for weeks. The HOA board was dissolved. Karen and several accomplices faced criminal charges, and the community breathed a collective sigh of relief. Ty felt a weight lift, but the scars of the battle ran deep. His grandfather, once stoic and reserved, began sharing stories long held in silence of the land's history, the family's sacrifices, and the secret struggles to keep the lake. Free Ty, meanwhile, had become a symbol of resilience, a young man who stood up not just for his family, but for the truth. One afternoon, as Ty and his grandfather stood by the lake, the water shimmering under the golden sun, a letter arrived. No return address, just Ty's name scrawled in elegant script. Curious, Ty opened it. Inside was a single photo, an old black and white image of the lake, but in the background, barely visible, was a figure standing by the water's edge, and on the back, a handwritten note. "Not all battles are on the surface. Some secrets lie beneath. Watch the lake closely." Ty's heart quickened. What could this mean? That night he sat on the dock, staring into the still waters, the moonlight casting silver trails. The lake was quiet, but his mind was loud with questions. Suddenly a faint glow flickered beneath the water. He leaned closer, peering into the depths. Was it a reflection? Or something else? As he watched, the glow pulsed rhythmically, almost like a signal. Ty grabbed his flashlight and slipped into the water, heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. Diving below the surface, he followed the glow, leading him toward an old sunken boat resting in the mud. Inside the boat's hull was a waterproof box, sealed tight. He hauled it up and opened it, revealing a bundle of documents and a small, intricately carved wooden box. Ty opened the wooden box carefully, and inside was a key in an old, ornate key with strange symbols etched on its surface. Among the papers, he found maps and journals dating back over a century, detailing hidden coves, secret passages, and a treasure long lost, a treasure tied to the lake's original settlers, and the land his family had sworn to protect. The discovery shook Ty to his core. The battle with Karen and the HOA was just the beginning. There was a deeper history, a legacy hidden beneath the lake's calm surface. Ty realized his fight was far from over, but now he had a new purpose. He would uncover the lake's secrets, protect its legacy, and ensure the truth prevailed. As dawn broke, Ty stood on the shore, key in hand, ready to unlock a new chapter in the story of Silver Pine Lake. The lake whispered its ancient secrets, and Ty was listening. The end.